Okay, recording is on, and thank you everyone for joining today. It's Friday, 29th of November. It's the 48th week of 2019, and this is our public developers and researchers update call for everyone who is interested in the progress of the different open source products that are getting developed in the Eternity blockchain ecosystem. I will go through everyone like every week. We do it like a public stand-up. Yeah, please just describe your greatest success this week and what you're currently working on. And yeah, so let's start today with the wallets and with Andy from Airgap, please.
Okay, so yeah, this week we mostly finished the work on our update, the big update that is coming. So we had to go through everything again, like starting from scratch, testing every feature and making sure that it's backwards compatible and so on. And yeah, it works pretty well. I think, fingers crossed, we are ready for a release today, submitting it to test flight, so we can test it out next week during the developer meetup. And I'm also already in Sophia to see the city
Nice.
before we're there. We also had some smaller, in a small group, some discussions about how we move forward with the AEXs, because there was some movement there. Yeah, and we also worked on some stability improvements in our library.
Cool, very nice. Are you aware if there are other projects out there that using your open source library, like, or is it currently only the Airgap wallet, or are there already other projects that are also using your library?
There is another project that we are working on where we use it. I have also heard that one other project is using it in another area in the Tezos community, and
Cool.
I have heard that Coinbase was actually using it internally.
Nice.
For the Tezos.
Really interesting. And do you get like contributions, like code contributions on GitHub, and do you have contribution guidelines for that?
We don't have any guidelines, but we actually have only received a handful of pull requests. There is a huge one ongoing, but I'm not sure how working on it, but to integrate Ripple. So he basically did all the work necessary to get this going.
Yeah, cool. When you have experience with that, I think we have also a lot of young projects and new stuff that is happening, and still figuring out what's the best way to, receive contributions and also stay kind of aware about people that are reusing the code or integrating this in their own projects. And I think it's very interesting. If you have news from time to time about this, and it's interesting to share for everyone here. So yeah, thank you very much, Andy. I will go to the next wallet project or wallet browser contract signing project. Very hard to just put one name to it, but wallet I think is a common name. With Milan and the wallet browser extension. So Milan, has there been any changes? I know you were traveling and giving developer workshops. Just give us your update, please.
Hello, guys. So this week we synced up with the SDK team as they merged AX2 in the develop branch, and we started working on rebasing our implementation, which we previously did in a separate branch, to work with what's merged now. We've also been working on generalizing the tipping contract to allow tips not only for domain names, so we will allow tips to be sent to any entity, whether it is a Twitter account, social media account, blog post, or anything else. As last week, we, together with Philip, worked on fungible tokens, and we moved the AX standard. We are now also from wallet side working on supporting the updated standard for fungible tokens. And we had some reported issues while using the app injection for interacting with decentralized applications. We will be looking also into this, but we won't first to finish the AX2 implementation, as we think that this may solve the issue from that side. And yeah, as you mentioned, personally, I was traveling to do some workshops in Bangalore and Vienna, and also I'm currently in Vienna. I'll be leaving to Sophia tomorrow morning, and I'll be ready next week for the workshops.
Nice. What was the most interesting thing people asked you and liked about the stuff you taught them? Like, is there any particular thing that you remembered from your workshops that went very
People
well?
really liked that Sophia was a functional language, and they were quite interested and fascinated about how readable it is. And
Cool.
the people that don't have previous background as developers could also understand what's going on in a smart contract, which was
Yeah.
really interesting. Yeah.
Nice. Really nice. Cool. Thank you for that update, Milan.
Thank you.
Next one in line is Stoyan, working on the base wallet, and for sure has lots to share. So Stoyan, how is it going on your side?
Great. So we've made two releases, one public and one in private beta. The public release, the version number is 0.18, and some of the new features in there are, we added this info screen in the settings where you could see which compiler version, SDK version, base app version, and middleware version you're running. So that's useful info.
Nice.
We will soon add an option to choose your own compiler and choose your own middleware. So if you're hosting those yourself, you could put them in there. And we had a request from the community where some people accidentally made extra accounts, like empty accounts. Some of it had to do with token migration. So we put in a prompt that asks you if you really want to make an account to make sure that you don't accidentally make like 10 of them.
Yeah.
So that's there. We had this issue that which you've experienced, I believe, where the mnemonic phrase was being remembered by the device itself or by the keyboard.
Yes.
That should be solved. The only place where I have found it not to be solved is I use a third-party keyboard, which is like the Google keyboard, and there it still remembers it. But if you're using the regular device keyboard, it shouldn't remember it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, nobody should enter like 10 times per week their seed phrase into any wallet, I guess. This is rather an edge case of me playing around with stuff.
And myself, yeah. I mean, by this point I probably have memorized it, but yeah, we should still fix it though, because we don't want the keyboard to remember your recovery phrase. There's also the naming system functionality works more reliably now. There's been a number of things that have been done to improve. Some of them are from the middleware, some from our side. It should be, I don't want to say it's like 100% there, but it's reliable now. And if anyone is experiencing an issue with it, they should definitely get in touch, because it should at this point, there's only one issue that I'm aware of that's not, but that's just like not great UX, it still works. So if you have trouble like registering a name or claiming a name or bidding on a name, definitely report that somewhere, because it should work quite reliably now.
Cool, yeah.
Bidding, and part of that is bidding is now context aware, meaning that when you're on an auction and you press the plus button, it knows the previous bid, so it's it shows you the previous bid, so you know now that you should bid more than the previous person.
Nice.
And we also had an issue where sending to name, we had to basically, in some cases, if you type the name too fast, it wouldn't resolve, and so it wouldn't get recognized. That's fixed now, and that was mostly in desktop. So that's the public release. We have also made a beta release, which is an Android, and it should be approved for test flight today for iOS, which has deep linking. And so as soon as it's approved in iOS, I'm going to make a forum post and tell people, share with developers how they can use it, and then try to get feedback from everyone. this is very exciting because it should be an easy way for developers to handle only their business logic without running their app inside the base app. And
nice. Really looking forward to that one.
Yes, and make sure you try it. Make sure you give us feedback. And we also have people interested in using this. For example, one of the Starfleet projects would very much like to try this. So we already have like real life use cases. And in addition to that, we're meeting next week in Sophia to try to have some in-person time and solve some or address some opportunities for improvement. So as part of that, we're going to look at all this inter-wallet SDK communication again and see which parts that are still left there. For example, deep linking standard, inter-wallet communication, which ones, how we want to address them, and what expansions we want to resubmit, if any, because some of them are withdrawn. So that's an opportunity. And also next week, we would like to schedule a session to talk about the token functionality that Milan has prototyped. It's an exciting time to be able to issue your own tokens and figure out what needs to be added to make it user-friendly and robust. And yeah, that's it.
Cool. I think there will be really, really interesting tasks coming up, and we will need to put them on a roadmap, on a timeline, and prioritize them. And yeah, I'm also really looking forward to this. Please, everyone here, and thank you for mentioning it, Stoyan, also think about agenda items, because we only have 2-3 days there, and we should like kind of figure out which are the most important for us, so we have enough time to discuss them. And thank you very much for your update here, Stoyan.
About this.
Yeah. Get in touch with me. Get in touch with me,
okay, cool.
And with Sergey. Sergey is also helping a lot. He's collecting the stuff for the core protocol team. And
I have 3 sessions.
As there are other topics around this too. Yeah, perfect. Best go to Sergey and push it to Sergey. I just give the responsibility to him now. And if you like that or not. And yeah, thanks a lot. And one more thing, which is really important, because I also see Pega here in the call. Pega is collecting now once per month all updates and news that we are giving here in this public stand-up, but also especially the things where we see there's a new release on GitHub, or there is a new release at AirGap's GitHub, or there is especially forum posts. So everything you think is newsworthy, something where you say, look, this is kind of news, even if it's a small achievement, make a small post in the forum and tell this to people, so Pega can also collect it, and other people can take care of like trying to spread the message and get this also across this team of like 20 people that are joining these calls and their teams, but also to like other people in the ecosystem. We are trying this out now. Let's see how it works. But as more you share, as more we can share, like reshare. So please don't forget this next to this update here. But let's now go quickly here through this round, because there are many more people who want to give an update. And as I have mentioned, Sergey is welcome to give an update about the core protocol.
So hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, clear and loud.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, like right about the time about the forum post, because we have created a release yesterday, 5.2.0. And yeah, so I will write a small forum post about this. And actually, it makes sense to pay attention to this, because this release introduces a backwards, and one of the changes it introduces backward incompatible changes to the state channels API. So after migrating, once when the SDK is migrated to the new version, the user should reestablish their connection to the state channels. But also in this release, we've done a bunch of nice maintenance features. For example, now we're logging the number of connected peers to a node. We've enhanced our API with the information about the inbound and outbound connected peers. We added some stability to the database write logic. So in case some temporary issue on the hard drive occurs, like before, the node will just crash. And now we will try to repeat the write. So we will make the node more stable. Unfortunately, like we've been promising to include the garbage collector in the next release, but at the very last mile, like basically during the very last hours before the release, our test-obsessed developers decided that we might want to spend a little bit more time testing it, because although we don't see like any imminent like threats to the stability, this feature touches like a very critical part of the node. So we think about the ways how could we did some more thorough tests to make sure that some edge cases did not occur, because the consequences can be like pretty unpleasant. So when the nodes will be stuck in incorrect state, and then we will be syncing with another node, so it can introduce some chaos. And we decided to spend like a session in our workshop in Sophia, so we will get some developers and like think about strategies, how we can test it, maybe even start testing it there right away, like in a closed circle. And also like some interesting developments on the features which we are preparing for the next hard fork. So we are almost done with the transaction in which a third party can, in which someone else can pay on behalf of the owner of the transaction. Then we almost done introducing like a new cryptographic primitives which will allow for efficient creation of zero knowledge applications using our using our smart contracts. Nice. And let me look through the list. Okay, and yeah, okay, we're retiring our user acceptance tests written in Python. So instead, we decided to move everything to Erlang, because apparently Erlang makes much more fun, and it's tiresome to support both suites. And I think this is like most of the interesting parts that we have achieved during the last week.
Cool. One thing, I mean, I've also heard in the stand-ups this morning. I mean, I think it's really, really good that so much effort is put into testing, and now also with less deadline pressure, we even take more time in testing and holding back stuff. How is it, Sergey, with the release itself? So is this like a release candidate that it's hanging around for a couple of weeks so everybody can test it, or will this go onto GitHub right away?
No, since this release didn't introduce like significant basically any changes that could affect external like client applications, we decided just to roll it out.
Okay, good. And this is, I think, also a big topic again for like everyone, that we kind of set one more time the standards of release management and testing and things like that, and I'm looking forward to do that. But as you have mentioned also the GC, and I've also heard Juraj, I heard you this morning talking about it. Maybe you want to add like a couple of sentences to this, because I know this is mainly your domain.
I think it's Carol.
It's quite interesting.
Yes, I think. Yeah.
Oh, it was Carol. I'm sorry. Yeah, Carol. So let's jump to Carol if he's here in the call. Yeah, he is. So Carol, please.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So, yes, Sergey summarized it well. So this week was mostly about basically running the GC in the loop and addressing comments in the PR. But as it really touches everything and the consequences are not pleasant, I think it's a right approach to be super cautious and kind of deliver another level of confidence with a battery of tests, be it system test or some other forms of tests. So, but at this phase, I basically expect some initiative from other people who would rather get to the more confident level whether this should be merged or not. I think it is ready, but yeah, we should do really the very last mile to be absolutely super sure that what we deploy in this phase is rock solid.
Cool. Yeah, thanks a lot, Carol. And as I have mentioned, Juraj, and let's go with Juraj next. So Juraj, give us a few words from your work.
Hi, everyone. So I continued my work on validations in parallel for blocks and transactions. Well, the next step is changing the most critical part of the node, which is the conductor. So I guess we need to discuss this in Sophia. So after validations, I continued working on the peer connections. So as Sergey mentioned, I added some logs and extended HTTP status endpoint with the current number of connections. And also I found an issue with the peers. So basically the nodes keep info about too many peers in their state, even about those that are not available anymore. And this can result in timeouts as node tries to connect to these unavailable nodes. So
Martin had this problem, I remember.
Yeah, so we finally found this issue, and we know what it's caused by, which is good. And the last thing I worked on was throughput tests. It basically shows how long it takes to add a block into the database with all the validations compared how long it takes to add this block without the validations. And basically, it seems we spent too much time doing these validations. So there is a room for improvement, and we can discuss this in Sophia. And
nice.
I think that's it from my side.
Cool. Very interesting topics. Thank you, Uri, for your update. And Tino, I've heard you're fighting with random number generation on Windows, and for sure you're also doing some stuff in the state channel team. So what's happening there on that front?
I did, but the random number generation issue is gone now. And as Sergey already mentioned, we are about to merge the crypto primitives. Nice. Regarding state channels, Ulf, do you want to give the update? Because he's lurking around here somewhere.
Yeah.
I am looking. My network has been pretty bad. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you very well. So please give us the state channel part.
Yeah, so it's kind of been a slow week, partly because Tino has been off on extracurricular activities, and Dimitar even more so, since he had his first child.
Yeah.
And fully in line with company policy, he named it after a Eternity product, Sophia.
That's very good.
So I am still working on refactoring the chain watcher to make it much more scalable. I mentioned that before. It's just slow going. So not so much has happened in the
sentences to the chain watcher, what the chain watcher is actually doing, just for people that might not understand it.
Yeah, so an issue with state channels is that even though it goes off chain, it still has a close relationship with the chain, and it is possible for an evil actor to go to the chain and, for example, close unilaterally, do things like that. So each party on the channel has to be aware of what happens on the chain. So we have a monitor for that subscribes to all new blocks and checks if there are any channel-related transactions on there. Now, this obviously has to be very carefully optimized so that it doesn't create tons of chain activity on or database activity on the node. And in keeping with the philosophy of first make it right and make it fast, we created one chain watcher per channel endpoint. But when I was doing some scalability tests, this started becoming noticeable when you had had like 1,000 channels, channel endpoints on the same node, because then suddenly you had actually more than 1,000 chain watchers occasionally digging into the chain. And so I am now refactoring that, so we will run only one chain watcher, which hopefully smartly aggregates all the monitoring needs for all the channels. So, but it's a bit tricky because obviously it needs to be very economical about when it goes to the chain. So yeah, it's
thank you for explanation. Thank you for this explanation. It was really good. I think everybody should get this now, and yeah, it's obviously super important. Great, thank you, Ulf. If it's okay, I'm jumping to the next one, so we get through everyone here. Yeah, Tino, I think we went to everyone who participated from the core protocol team. So yeah, I would go to the next person with the running camera, which is Pivo. And yeah, Pivo, we actually had planned this week to do some planning, but we didn't. So we will do this next week. But still, I'm sure you had lots of things to do. So please give us all an update where you have been working on.
Yes, sure. So we spent a lot of time working on the governance app to optimize it. First thing we did is improve the documentation. So there's now 2 pieces of documentation. One is how everybody can in very simple terms, verify results of a poll by himself on their own computer with their own aeternity node and eventually their own middleware. And we have a small banner in the bottom of each poll that says, this is the instructions and everything is open source, just check it out. Second thing from documentation side is we have some documentation on how to run the governance server and app and contracts all on your own hardware. Third is we added some hints and help sections. So if you open the governance app on mobile, you have the pink question mark there, and it gives you an introduction of how it works and what the different pages do and what the process.
Cool, I saw that.
And on desktop, we have a sidebar that shows like arrows to what's happening on this page for people to see how does it work, what's the explanation. And we did this. So this is the landing page of the governance app now, which is interactive with the whole governance process, and we can add some more information there if we see the need. And the third thing we did is we got some feedback from Liu that in China, the governance app is not really well working due to high latency and low bandwidth when connecting to GitHub pages. So I encouraged him to run it himself or make a China hub for it so people can connect there and verify everything easily.
Nice.
And also,
will he do it?
He said he will try it out.
Cool.
And we did optimize the performance a lot. So depending on the page, we're 2 to 5 times faster in loading times, as we do a lot of requests in parallel now.
Nice.
Made the app about half the size to what it has to download, and generally improved latency also with the backend server. And some of these changes that we made to the governance app, we also ported to the Graffiti app. So this is also a lot smaller now, and we can optimize it in the future, and also to the app boilerplate that Tino has in his GitHub.
Very, very nice. Maybe if you, it would be nice if maybe we can squeeze you in on Tuesday in Sophia at the public developer meetup, where you can show some, examples what you did to achieve this. I think this is super interesting. Like not a full blown presentation, but like some examples. I think super interesting to see for everyone.
And in general, we want to work on some improvements in general to make these benefits that we had available for everybody easily, and think of more performance improvement for all app developers, as well as improving documentation.
Nice. Thank you very much, people, for that update. And one person who was also fighting with building an app, which is the Fire editor, is Nikita. I know you're trying to getting tabs introduced, and I saw a few posts that you're struggling. But like, how is it going on your front and the Fire editor?
Oh, fighting the good fight. So basically, what I've been spending with the last week was rebuilding the house of blockchain. It's not in Liechtenstein anymore. It's here in Berlin now. No, just kidding. Yeah, the challenges of building an app. So the troubles are multiplying by the amount of goals and components that you include. So last week I announced the multi-tab and local file saving feature. They are actually working, but they were heavily interfering with, for example, like live error highlighting and other features like the smart contract sharing, social sharing feature, for example. And I'm basically have spent the last week killing off these bugs and also preparing the groundwork for the next features, because it's what you do on every release, always already like lay the foundation for the next stuff, so you don't have to redo everything after. The complicated stuff is always of course always the user, because you as a developer, you think of a happy path. And Stoyan might be really familiar with this from the base app, and you build something, and then there's various combinations that you can like use different features and click different elements, and then your app is being stuck in some unfavorable, not foreseen state, which is not desired. So, and yeah, basically have been constructing all the rule sets so the editor is always in a desired state, no matter in what order people do random stuff in it, and so it will not break. I think in Sophia I'll be able to present the next release. Everything is working so far, but I decided that while I was at it, I would rework the event log, which is on the bottom of the page, which I've just quickly hacked in for the last hackathon when he was in Prague. But it's going to be a beautiful, nice looking component with all the nitty-gritty stuff. So
nice.
Yeah,
I really like that you found your project there and that you put so much effort into it, and I can just encourage to do more, and I can encourage to do to others like Christian, like your team or so, when you're working with this, when you making it part of the AE projects development framework and stuff like that, that you not only give feedback and to bugs you discover, but maybe even write a couple of lines, hands-on code, and contribute this to the work Nikita is doing. I think it's very important, and it's a very useful tool, especially for beginners like me.
I think Christian is one of the other humans on this earth that also works with Angular, just like I do. So
yeah, cool. Let's give the Christian. Maybe you can give your update as the next person here. How is it on your side?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. Lately we've been working with. We're still trying to fully sync the node. It went up to 90% nearly, and then again connect to the ghost peers and got stuck. But luckily, Uri supported Alex yesterday, I believe, and by providing more peers that we could connect to, and we are now on the 67%, and we are still in progress. And as the guys said, it should not be a problem anymore. So we believe it's going to be synced. Another thing, we functionality for removing forge dependencies from package.json on migrating from AI4G to iProject, and we managed to remove epoch references in Docker Compose configurations. We also managed to release a new version 2.0.1 of a project. Another thing we were working on the token migration support. We had a problem with MetaMask and Trezor, like with a different approach for signing transactions with the Trezor. And we managed to sign transaction with Trezor over MyEther wallet, but we still have issues with MetaMask. And actually, we opened an issue with MetaMask as well, so the guys could look into it. We added functionality to remove duplicate dependency on our project while updating. I think I said it already. I actually twice on my list. We were working on support for the latest Docker Compose version, which is now 1.25. There we have a couple of issues, like when you try to run Docker Compose PS, it like doubles the line with the name of the image, and this is some, I don't know, we should get this error and yeah, somehow avoid it. And the last thing, we finally had our JetBrains plugin almost ready, and this should be uploaded anytime soon on the JetBrains and be ready to use. And I believe that's pretty much it from our side.
Cool. Thank you very much, Christian. Yeah, I think like one of the goals here really is with AE project to get it as stable and reliable as possible. And I also saw that like and there will be like with more users, more stuff will pop up. I saw like people asked in the forum, I think, or somewhere in the chat, to how the upgrade project process is from one version to another, and so on and so on. And I think when we get more users of this development framework, we will run into more of those things. But yeah, you guys handle it well. So thank you very much for this work. Last but not least, let's have Andrea talking about the SDKs and also about the middleware. So like a very huge part of the whole Eternity ecosystem. Yeah, Andrea, what was happening on that front?
Hey, hello. So on the JavaScript SDK, we are working on the finalizing the version 7.0.0 that is gonna bring few significant changes. The first one is what was mentioned by Milan before, is that there is gonna be another way to interact with the SDK through not just via Windows parent, but also via messages. Another important change is gonna be that, as was requested by a few parties in the JavaScript SDK repository, from the 7.0 release of the JavaScript SDK, the SDK will always perform pre-checks before broadcasting transactions. These pre-checks are mostly related to making sure that the right nonce is being used for the transaction, that the account performing the transaction has enough funds to perform the transaction, that the signature is valid for the node that is being contacted.
Nice, very helpful.
So this kind of approach is going to be for sure somehow more. We will have to make more requests to the node before letting the transaction through, but this will for sure be helpful to understand what's going on before actually sending the transaction. So it is, of course, it's possible to disable this functionality, but this is going to be on by default.
Will it also report errors when it fails in some of those parts?
Yes, for sure. It reports the error and what are all the errors that the SDK have found with the transaction.
Nice.
This is also used by the Google's application. The Google application, what actually does is uses this functionality from the SDK to tell you what is wrong or if everything is right from a transaction. So this is going to be on by default.
Right.
The other main, not change that is somehow important is that since there was the release of the new compiler this week, 4.10, it is now possible again to verify that the bytecode of a contract deployed on the network matches a source code that you can give to the SDK. So this is also another nice feature that we are able to re-establish. On the Python SDK, portal, the important part, I will say that the tutorials there are, the code that you will find in the tutorials are part of the test suite. So we are confident that they are going to always be correct in terms of function at the very least. And also the other big functionality that I already announced last week, but now we have it released, is the fact that there is a high-level contract interaction interface that allows you to work very, very easily with the contracts, and is implementation of the AX6. And also in the Python SDK, we have now support for mnemonics, so you can actually load mnemonics accounts using mnemonics from the SDK. The same happens now with the Go SDK, so you can use mnemonics with the Go SDK, and we have also an improved documentation that is deployed in godoc.org. That is the official documentation channel for Go project. And there are other few accessibility improvement in the SDK, and also we have a better interface now to create, to generate vanity accounts with the Go SDK. So I would like you to try this one. It's, you know, it's fun, not very important, but it's fun. For the middleware then, so the middleware now is officially known as Eternal. So please update your references to it. The migration of to the new name is completed. The Docker images on Docker Hub are being updated. The repository has been renamed, and there are the two official URLs to access the middleware are mainnet.eternal.io and testnet.eternal.io, and you will find the URLs both in the documentation, I think, and for sure in the forum post that the update of this week. Again, as it was mentioned before, Vistoyan, there was improved integration for support for names and auctions, and then there's been again, most of the work has been done about improving reliability and speed. Also, documentation for the middleware has been updated. There is a note that about updating to the latest version is 0.12.0. That by default is going to make few more checks, and so it's going to take some time to upgrade. Unless you disable these checks, please, before upgrading, just go to check the release notes. There are instructions there on how to perform an upgrade without having too much troubles. And last but not least, we have now introduced a new format for introducing expansions. So it's issue-based on GitHub. The expansions are still formalized in GitHub, in a GitHub repository in MD files. But now it's easier to engage with expansions, easier to find out which expansions are open and which status they are, using labels on the GitHub repository for expansion. So if you have any idea about expansion, if you have any comments about the current expansion, I warmly invite you to check out the repository and to add your comments or to propose your new expansion. It would be very, very appreciated, and also very useful for all of us. And that's everything from my side.
That's a lot from your side. Thank you very much, Andrea. And I missed like 10 seconds, but most of the stuff I got. I don't know, I got disconnected here, and I hope also the recording didn't got disconnected, but let's see this. This is not on us now. Yeah, please also encourage to, don't forget to post those updates in the forum so also Pega can reshare them and collect them and things like that. And also I want to mention here, maybe the last update, I got a message from Daniela, who she said that they were improving testing and bug fixing, and they were working on example applications like the Forever IAENS, the Smart Oracle, a name marketplace, and they also worked on adding more documentation to the Alexia SDK. Also, maybe mentions worthy, like, I mean, the Eternity Crypto Foundation is supporting many different, open source initiatives in this ecosystem. But also sometimes we also reduce a little bit effort. So right now we have reduced a little bit the effort on the Go SDK and also on the Alexia SDK. It's not getting deprecated, it's still maintained, but it will maybe move a little bit slower. And especially here, if somebody listens to this and is like very much into Go or very much into Elixir, and these people that are currently working on that appreciate any little help and feedback they can get, as they are very small teams and not many people. Yeah, that's it, I would say. And everybody spoke. Thank you very much for joining this call. And I'm really looking forward to see most of you in Sophia on Monday. Thank you very much for joining this call.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you on Monday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.